Hi, welcome to Infusion Health, the podcast. I'm comedian Chris Patrick, a.k.a. Self-Proclaimed Power Man. And I'm here with my co-host and significant other, Rach.
Hey, guys.
Now, today we got another interesting show. We got, her name is Anjua, and she's calling from Cleveland. And she's a life and sensual movement coach, and she teaches women empowerment. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I can't wait to find out. So let's welcome her to the show. Anjua, welcome to the show.
Hello. I love that because it's literally, I'm not sure what it is. I feel like I hear that a lot, especially from my guys who tend to come onto the feed. Well, what is all this about?
So
thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And you're calling from Cleveland. And like I said, we were there about a year ago?
About a year ago.
Yeah, we went to, like I said, we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Then we went to the Cleveland Museum of Arts?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. CMA. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was this one, what was it, a painting or a sculpture or something that like, it like.
Well, when you first walk in, you didn't like it. Because you're like, all this digital stuff. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then as we moved through the museum, we were like, he started getting into that. But I kind of liked the digital part. That you got to see digitally what was going on through the museum before you went to go see the actual pieces.
Right. It's just, progressive way of looking through it before you have to use a map. Now we can just. I don't want to bother with the knights in shining armor.
Well, what was that stuff I liked, but there was this one piece that like it would like come apart and stuff like that over time or something like that. We both like, you remember that piece?
I don't remember. Oh yeah. It was about the camps. World War II. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like this piece, it's supposed to decay through time. So by the time it's done, hopefully the healing has occurred.
Oh, wow. I've not seen this piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Cleveland's cool.
Yeah.
Cleveland's cool. We have a lot going. Did you all eat when you were here? Did you eat? Because our food scene is good too.
No, we went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Then we went to the Museum of Art. Then we drove back to Columbus, and I think we ate in Columbus.
Yeah.
Or no, Canton, because we went to we went to the Football Hall of Fame too.
Oh, y'all were on a tour. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Well, you got to understand this. Now, this is like the fourth time we went to Denver, and we're going again in May.
No, it's the second time we went to Denver.
No. Because we took the girls.
Oh, yeah.
So the very first time, we didn't see any of Denver. The very first time we went. We've seen almost all of Colorado, but we're travelers.
Yeah.
So this time we're like getting in the deepness of what Denver was and what 5 Points Corner was. And I would love to do an episode in the future about what it is. But 5 Points was called 5 Points Harlem District. And what it was like the birth of jazz started there. And all these Black empowerment movements were happening in Denver. So this time we're going to go check that out.
Oh, okay. So, I love this. And do you all record when you're on the road? Because that would be awesome.
We should.
We're insane.
It's a little bit of equipment to be taken on the airplane, but when we take the car rides, I'm looking to start doing this in the future. So
Anjua, I've seen some of your videos. So what exactly sensual movement? What exactly is that? And what exactly do you teach?
Okay. So the sensual movement part, I want to say, is a very general term. Okay. So it could really apply to anything, any style of movement that encourages, inspires the sensual energy within you to come forth. So generally those movements are going to be sometimes slower or they can be faster, but they'll involve the hips a lot. It'll involve a lot of kind of freedom of movement to let go, more primal movements. And like I said, it could range. So, something like salsa could be considered sensual movement. Something like belly dancing is a sensual movement. What I do is a particular style that was actually originally tied to erotic dance in the clubs, strip clubs. Okay. So the person who taught me, my mentor, the story goes that she was an actress and she had a role in a film. And so she went to go study the dancers in the clubs. And while she was there, she really became really fascinated by what was happening, the energy of what she was watching these women. She'd never seen people just really possess their sexuality and their sensual energy so boldly.
Right.
Even despite, even with the setting. And what she witnessed was a great deal of power happening in these women. But then the money comes out and it kind of changes the whole thing. And then you see that this is actually an exchange, right? And there's something happening here. But what she felt was that it was a stolen fire. It was something that was ours that had now become exploited. So she kind of became this on a mission to help us reclaim it. So she taught me this originally.
Okay.
And the way we do it is we combine a little bit of what we saw the girls do in the clubs with, some just general sensual stretching. Some people say it looks like yoga. Some people say it looks like sensual Pilates. Basically, some people say it looks like sensual ballet. It's movement that is slow, intentional, and deliberately done in circular movements with keep hips moving and the body moving, right? And it's about letting yourself be lost in this movement. So we don't choreograph. It's not about 5, 6, 7, 8. I essentially teach these women to get into their bodies in the most natural way so that they eventually become like they can freestyle all on their own in their sensual bliss.
I think that's so beautiful because history shows that women claiming that part of themselves were hookers and prostitutes.
Exactly.
And just claiming that part of yourself, you're claiming your whole self and allowing yourself to be truly as you are. And yeah, I just find that beautiful.
Yeah. And, and I celebrate all my women, the women who work in the clubs, the women that, the sex workers, I have no judgment or issue at all. Like, it is ours and we should be able to use it as we want. Some of us use it to heal and some of us use it as a form of exchange. And some of us, it's ours and it just depends. But the point is that it's yours to decide what to do with it. And yet society has wanted to control it, exploit it, make money off of it, tell us when it's too much, tell us to put it away. Like Cardi B can't make a song, but if somebody had suggested to put Cardi in a movie, which, her breasts are out, whatever, because it's for the male gaze, then that's a different situation, and that's okay.
Yep.
So being the only man in the room.
Sorry, Chris. That was just like, you got me fired up and ready to go.
But you know what? He was a bouncer. He was a bouncer in a strip joint. So he got to know these women in a more personal.
Well, we don't call them strip joints. We call them gentlemen's clubs. But,
gentlemen's clubs, and I worked in one as well. Yeah, I was the Diamond Dollar Girl.
Yeah, I've worked in them, and a whole nother story on some of the stuff I saw in there and but you are right about there is a certain, and let's take the woman and man thing out of it, but there's a certain thing of letting yourself go, because I've also played drums, and people used to come up to me and say, man, when you're playing, it's like, yeah, it's a certain thing that when you let go, when you play and when you just feel the music and just don't think about this, don't think it might, or who's watching me, it's just letting go and just going with the music. It can be,
that's a sensual experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So we're having them all the time.
Yeah.
Right. But a lot of times people don't recognize it as such. So if you can lose yourself so effortless, like so fully in your drums, right. And you're just like transcendent and you are like blissed out and like the room goes away and everybody could have vacated the premises if you don't care because you're still going. That to me is what's happening with these women when they're dancing.
Well, I'll tell you an interesting story. My drum teacher, a guy by the name of Rabin Cox, he said he was talking to Billy Cobham. Now, if you don't know who Billy Cobham was a famous jazz drummer, extraordinaire. And he goes, I went up to Billy Cobham one time after a show and I said, what were you thinking about when you were rolling? Meaning when you were doing not when you're playing the drums. And he said, man, he like took me over into a corner and he's like, man, it was like these spaceships were coming at me, and I had to knock them all out. And I was doing this, and I was doing. It's just like,
don't act.
But that's kind of what you get to when you're dancing. I've seen it in ballet dances. I've seen it in all types of dance. I've seen it even with people just hanging out and in the clubs, and they're just dancing to the music. It's a thing.
Guitar players do it all the time.
Yeah, it's a thing of just letting yourself go. And one of the most famous things was Elvis, who actually got it from black people when he went on stage. They when he was doing TV, they said they filmed him from the waist up because they're saying, well, what is he doing? And he even said, I just get lost in the music. It's just it's just natural. It's nothing, nothing obscene about it. It's just me getting into the music.
Exactly. That piece though, right? The fact that there's no choreography there, right? So when you get on your drum, it's going to be a difference between, you can get lost in a piece that, was written by somebody for sure. But what I'm talking about is like, there's nothing. I just sit you down and I just go, Chris.
Yeah.
Go, Rachel. And then you just get lost and you just start going off on your thing. And that to me, I feel like takes it into another space, right? And a lot of it too is like encouraging these women that this isn't performative. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, I encourage them not to go off and go run and share it with everybody. Mm-hmm. Keep it for yourself for a long time. Honestly, make it so much yours that if and when you do decide someone is ready to see you in this real state of your sensual, sexual energy, so open and raw and free, that if they don't get it, they could get up and go make a sandwich. Is what I always tell my students. You just don't care. You could be like, go ahead and make me one too while you're at it, because I'm going to keep dancing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So this is very important.
You're not holding the social faux pas in your head about this anymore. You're just accepting yourself. And if they don't, then that's them.
Yeah. If I'm really dancing for you, that's what you're going to see. I can absolutely make it more performance. Like I can be more obvious and aware of what I'm doing. But if I'm going to show you the truth of me when I dance, when I'm teaching them in this room, then that's what you are seeing. Your witness, she could literally be doing nothing. She could do 3 moves for 3.5 minutes, but you will be so enthralled by how deeply into herself she is that you can't take your eyes off of her.
So when you teach, do you teach this? How many people are in your class when you teach this?
It just depends. I mean, I teach one-on-one. Right now, most of my students are online because that all happened after the pandemic, and then it just kind of stayed that way because I went from being in Cleveland, known in Cleveland, to kind of moving outside of that, thankfully. Mm-hmm. And so most of my people are online. When I do have group classes, I've had as many as 15 women in them. For my more intimate classes where I combine more of the life coaching in it, those tend to be smaller, 5 women, 8 women. So that I have time to work with them too, because a lot of this stuff I got to talk through what's happening in their head too, mm-hmm. because the block, I want this to last beyond the class.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It can't be that, Rachel came to my event, she has this wonderful time, but if she comes to this kind of a class every week and it stops the minute the class is over, then my job it's not really being done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's my feeling. And that's when I had to bring the life coaching aspect into it, because I had to help them understand that there's energy moving. There's emotions coming up. There's a reason why your body felt locked up before that maybe needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? There's fears about, here's the thing is that they feel so amazing in class and then they get out into the world and the world wants to tell them everything opposite.
Right.
So,
and that's what I'm battling.
So we've talked about your dance. Now let's, as you hinted on your life coaching, what exactly do you do with your life coaching?
Yeah, with the coaching, I would have to say that my specialty is really working with what I call the gremlin. And the gremlin is that nasty voice some people may call the inner critic. And I think every kind of, and I'm not a therapist, but, in therapy, they have a word for it, several different names for it. In coaching, we've got, everybody calls it something different, but the gremlin is essentially that voice that always pops up to tell you you're not enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not young enough, you're too this, you're too that. You're not lovable. And I really have come to be very passionate about helping women work through that voice, or people in general, but because I work with women, this is what I do a lot with them. Because that voice is insidious, and that voice is something that actually can't necessarily be gotten rid of. And so there's a secret to how we have to work with that voice. Not a secret, but there's a way. And that's what I work with them, is to understand how to manage it, how to get it under control. Because a lot of what happens when they leave my class, or even when they leave my coaching session, is that voice wants to interfere. The voice wants to counter. The voice wants to lie. The voice wants to stay stuck in the past and what happened. Right. So even I have women who come to me and they're like, well, I'm divorced, so I'm coming to you now to kind of rebuild my life, but they're still stuck in what was.
Yes.
And even from before that, sometimes it even comes as far as childhood, that this voice has been following them, telling them that they're not enough because so-and-so said so when they were 6.
But how do you,
and that shit just carries. Mm-hmm.
But how do you overcome that? Because, I think, again, being the only man but I think there's...
But I think it's beyond being the only man in the room, because this kind of stuff happens with every single person, man or woman.
Yeah.
You always have that internal beatdown, but you also have those terrible moments in your life where somebody told you were not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that voice just pops up at all those times when you're about to rise to the occasion generally. And everybody's going to have a different reason why it pops up, right? Sometimes it's just a familiar thing. Sometimes it's the voice of authority sets you off. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's being put in situations that you are unfamiliar with that sets you off because it happened when you were in 6th grade, that you weren't prepared. They put you in a class, you know what I'm saying? And it just stays with you. So really the first thing I have to teach women or my clients in general, and this is just, like I said, this is for everyone. The gremlin lives within everybody. Everybody has something, some form of this, is that you can't get rid of it. So if you can't get rid of it, what are we going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we got to figure out why it's there. We got to find it, honestly. And when you find out and when you realize that it really is just a smaller version of you that is stuck in what happened, you can start to learn to have some compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the stages that I walk them through. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rich.
My son came to me the other day. I told him to walk into Costco, just go on the side, not the side that you show your card and you go buy the objects in there, but the side where you can go get something to eat. You don't have to show your card. And he's like, Mom, I'm so scared. I'm like, Denzel, you're 25 years old. He's like, but I'm not you. I'm like, do you know what I do in those moments? I fake it till I make it. I am totally scared in this moment, but I act like I own it and I just walk forward. That's all you have to do. And he came out with the food and he was just radiating that he had enough power in himself to go get that food. And yeah, it was a simple thing, but he was beating himself down before it. Hey guys, we'll be right back. Sit tight.
Hi, this is Ross, the host of Smells Like Humans. Each week we talk about the curious things that people do. Fans say it's like hanging out with your funny friends. If you like lighthearted conversation, personal stories, and a hint of psychology, chances are we are discussing something relevant to you, like relationships, dreams, phobias, weddings, work, cults, 100 topics and counting. Sometimes silly, sometimes serious, but always fun. Please join us, because no matter who you are, we all smell like humans. Please click the link in the show notes.
Yeah, well, because anxiety is a real thing.
Yeah.
And something like that can really, that can paralyze someone. That was like, they don't want, like my son gets very uncomfortable around new people. And, I have to help him understand that, let's just talk through what's happening. And that's it, too. A lot of it's just being kind to yourself and compassionate. Because if he didn't have you there with him to talk him down, right, it's him being able to work through that for himself. So he's like, okay, well, what's wrong? What am I panicked about?
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about what actually is going to happen. Probably not. Why would they stop me? What do I say when they stop me? You know what I'm saying? So you start to talk yourself through it and actually do it. And then you start to realize, okay, it's okay. It's okay. Another thing I do is I tell them to name this thing. Because the minute you give it a name, someone you don't know, preferably, please, it takes a little of the edge off. Yep. And people come up with fun names. And I love it when my women are like, fucking Frank showed up today. I'm like, why Frank? Okay. So Frank showed up. What happened? They're like, man, I told Frank, why are you here? They're like, we good. You know, and it just suddenly you see them laughing it through and this takes some of it out. The sting. It's not so scary anymore.
Mm. Well, see, my thing is I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and I'm the youngest out of 3 boys, and my older brothers are, I basically grew up at the time where, well, you're going to sit there and cry about it. You're going to do something about it. You know, quit crying, you know, quit being a wimp, and that's what's kind of given me my outer toughness, because I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to do it, you know, and people are like, aren't you scared? I was like, yeah, I'm scared, but I got to do it. This is what I want to do. This is where I'm going to go. And I just do it. But I notice with my kids, they cry, you know, not cry a lot, but they're like, I'm like, just do it. You know, you're going to sit there and cry about it. Are you going to do it? You know?
Yeah. And I think it's like, for me, it does help, I think, to identify, for them to name it. Like, what are you afraid of specifically? Right. Like, let's name it. Because if we can name it, suddenly it's like not that scary. You know, like you're something able to name, I'm just afraid of whatever it was. Like they'll stop me, and then in that moment it's like, okay, but logically let's bring the logic into it. And I call this too, like flicking the light on. So it's like that whole premise when you're in the dark, when you were a kid especially, right? And you saw something in the corner, you're like, your imagination starts bugging out and you're like, oh shit, it's a monster, it's got 3 heads. I see it breathing. I saw it move. Oh, you're going crazy. And then you actually get the courage to flick the light on. You realize it's just the cool crack, that robe, your baseball hat. Okay, there's nothing there. So this essentially is like the same thing. If I can talk you through just getting at least the courage to flick the light on, then you'll actually start to see there's nothing there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I, like I said, with me, it's just one of those things where it's just like, okay, yeah, this is going to be scary. I'm just, you know, I just got to go up and do it. You know, like when I started. Right,
but Chris, for you, because you were taught to just jump. You know what I mean? I think this they don't do that as readily. They don't, for whatever. I don't know why. I have a 12-year-old. You know, 7-year-old is a little bit more prone to do it, but 12-year-old definitely is like, oh, it's happening. All the information, who's going to be there, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I could push him, or I could recognize he's just a different kid. So what works for him? You know, it's the same thing with my clients too. Like that actually, not everything's going to apply to them too.
Yeah.
But we're also talking about a different, like back then, children were seen, not heard. If you had, like, you dealt your problems. If somebody hit you, you hit them back. And
yeah, true.
The thing is that our children are being taught differently now. And society is getting more and more ugly. Even yourself, you're like, you know, with TikTok, this possible TikTok ban, my children are like, they're taking away our voice. And you yourself are like, okay, if they're going to take down TikTok, I'm going to jump over to this other realm. But our children don't know that, right? And a lot of people that grew up in a very abusive environment and moved on, got married into another abusive environment, do not know their own voice. So how do you teach them that? And I think that's what's beautiful about you and your life coaching and your sensual movement, teaching them this is okay. It is okay to accept yourself as you are. It is okay to look at the gremlin and say, not today.
Yep. And to say that it's normal. Like none of it is like none of it is weird. And I think that's part of what I love is when I do have, like, Rachel, when you came on and we had quite a few people on from different places, is that you get to see, oh, hearing her thing is my thing too, or similar. Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
I hear this all day long. What are you talking about? No, you're not the only one, which is kind of like, that sucks.
Right.
It's a huge club. And hate to break it to you, it's a huge club. But yeah.
I think there's power in knowing you're not the only one. Because then it goes from feeling like I'm the oddball to we're all a little odd.
we're all a little odd. So, like, and that's the thing. Is, like, I think you know you've heard me say this. I'm not trying to fix anybody. There's nothing fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to fix. You're not broken. You're a little bruised.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We all are a little beat up in some ways. Some of us more than others. But I won't co-sign that people are broken, right? And as a coach, it really is important for people to get that I'm not there to fix. I'm not there to, there's no magic to this shit. There's not like, oh, my life is going to be so perfect. It's like, no, your life is going to continue to do what life does.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing I'm going to show you is going to control people dying, people breaking your heart, losing a job. Like, that stuff's still going to happen. It's what I'm going to help you with is how to manage it as it's happening.
Yes.
How am I receiving it? How am I responding versus reacting?
Absolutely.
Well,
how far am I going to be in my spiral today versus when I didn't have my tools after there for weeks?
Well, I find it more as that you again being raised being raised, you know, being raised a man and being raised, and what I mean by that is being raised like, hey, you got to be tough. You know, you're gonna being taught that you're gonna get knocked down, but are you gonna stay down? You're gonna get back up. And the true man always gets back up and keeps fighting. You know, if you got to keep fighting, and if you keep fighting, eventually you will achieve what you want to achieve. But you got to keep fighting. You got to keep fighting for it. You got to keep going for it. You know, and you're gonna get knocked down. It's gonna happen. But do you come back? You know.
And I think there's one thing in knowing that. Sorry. I think there's one thing in knowing that because you were given those tools. And I think there's a whole different thing when people do not have those tools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or examples of it happening readily in front of them, too.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, too, because I find out in times when I get knocked down, there's a lot of people, a lot of friends I can call, a lot of people I can talk to go, hey, you know what, you're doing fine. Just keep pushing, you know?
Right. Right. Well, you have people who can be a reflection for you.
Yeah.
Right. They'll remind you who you are in those moments. And Rachel's right. Not everybody will necessarily have that kind of support, or know that even is possible or that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the other thing is that I have, and this is where the gremlin becomes insidious, is that I'll have people who are surrounded with people like that and they don't believe them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like they're in that moment, they're still not in belief of what you're saying and they're still going to spiral. So I hear what you're saying too, Chris, but I feel like what I was going to say before is even within that idea and that concept of what it meant to be, you know, tough and have to weather life. The problem I have with that is when do y'all get to be vulnerable?
Mm-hmm.
When is there any space given to that? And the other side of that is I also feel like there's a lot of detriment to that to some men, you know, that have felt like they can't be vulnerable ever because you must always be tough. You must always have this moment of rising to the occasion. I'm like, okay, but sometimes y'all got to feel kicked in. It's okay. Kicked down. And can we have compassion for those moments too? No doubt you're going to get back up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I'm saying is there's space for that as well. Can we add that in?
But that's what I was taught is that if you show your vulnerability, you're going to show your weakness. Don't show your weakness, you know?
Right. And but the thing is that while that has been success, I would almost call this a winning formula because it's probably been very successful for many people, for many men to live by that. But then I got to say, where has that shown up possibly too as a detriment in some way, or has it hurt in some way? Your emotional connection to self, to vulnerability. Because vulnerability is important that everybody is able to access. It's not weakness.
Yeah.
It's a very real feeling. It's only perceived as a weakness because that's what society has taught men. God knows what happened thousands of years ago. Somebody I don't know.
Yep.
Somebody just decided this is how men act.
Yeah.
It's gotta be this way. And now you're stuck in this whole idea of how you have to behave, and there's no space for you to be the full range of a human that you are.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, anytime you all are allowed to be vulnerable is in sports. So openly, I've never seen hearts broken so freaking open with men than
Hello?
Like
we're losing
broken.
you, honey.
Oh, did you hear me?
No, we did not hear you on that one.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me here now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, what I had said was that sporting events seems to be the one space that men are allowed to cry openly. and be vulnerable and show their pain and their upset and their heartbreak. But outside of that, there's not very many spaces where I feel it's encouraged. And it's important because it's part of you all.
Yeah.
Just,
well, you know, being in the sports, you know, I don't start crying and all that, but I get loud and all that, especially when the Vikings are losing. And
now you haven't seen it though. You've seen this.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
I've seen like watching football or watching a game when they're losing an important game and guys are crying and stuff like that, you know, but it's like, yeah, well, you know, he just lost his chance to go to the Super Bowl, you know, yeah, the team's crying. Yeah, it happens, you know. But also too, you know.
But even that, like that's hard. Yeah. That's a heartfelt moment. That's them and their vulnerability because they've been dreaming of this their whole life.
Yeah.
And it's like, right? And even little boys at games. Any other time, you better stop crying. But at games, oh, look at him. That's emotion. Look at this boy. He's so into this game. That's okay.
Yeah.
But don't you dare cry about nothing else. I'm just saying. This is my observation.
So true.
If we could bring that beautiful, heartfelt space that y'all are allowed to have in sports and other areas of your life, I'd just be so curious.
Yeah, but we were taught, you know, you got to be tough. You got to be tough.
I know.
Okay, but when you went to the hospital,
about women's empowerment.
But when you went to the hospital, you were surprised how strong I was for you in that moment.
I was.
You came back 5 days later and you're like, man, you were right there for me. And I thank you for that. Because you were scared about what was going on with your heart. And we found out that, you know, you're fine now.
Yeah, I'm fine.
But you were worried about yourself in that moment. And you were surprised that you could strongly lean on me. And that was just at the beginning of our relationship. But yeah.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful display to me of vulnerability and showing yourself to be that in front of Rachel. You know, I'm doing through. I'm good. Yeah. You know, I'm gonna just power through this. It's like, hey, you're fucking scared. It's okay. Be scared. Because this shit is scary. It's life. And let somebody be there for you. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too with our daughters is like they're like, well, this isn't going wrong. I said, well, hey, you know what? If you look at it, this person went to this many auditions before they got the role. This person wrote this many books before they were able to get published. You just got to keep pushing. I said, if you want proof, the proof is in the pudding. Look at all the people that are big. You know, they didn't get that. They worked at it, and you just got to keep pushing at it. You know, failure is going to happen, but you can't just worry about that. You got to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I love to I introduce the word "and" here. It sucks. I'm going to acknowledge that, and keep going.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
It's bullshit. You're right, and get up and go back to your audition tomorrow.
But I think there's beauty in that moment saying, yeah, I'm going to give myself a day to think that this sucks. This totally was the worst. But then you get out of bed the next day.
Yes. Rachel, have you heard of Mama Regena?
What's that, dear?
Have you ever heard of Mama Regena?
You are cutting out so bad, but no.
Dang. Okay. How about here?
Yes.
I cocked my head back. Okay. I moved it 2 seconds. We're back 2 inches to the left. All right. So Regena Thomashauer, she wrote a book. I don't know if am I allowed to say it on your podcast?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Okay. So she wrote this book called Pussy, and it's amazing and very powerful book, but she speaks to intentionally letting yourself swamp is what she calls it, meaning being in your feelings intentionally, letting yourself be there for a certain amount of time, whatever you got to do, so we don't feel so bad about it too. Because I think that happens a lot. My clients are like, oh, I feel bad, I let myself do this week because I was sad, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I'm waiting to hear what Chris got to say about this.
Well, I do have to say, in my last podcast, we talked to Bruce and Teo, and Bruce was talking about how he goes through mental illness and stuff like that. And I think the situation is very similar in something that we said here. Sometimes it's minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, month by month, until you get over what happened in that moment. To have you feel I'm good, but without having the tools, you don't know how to get to that I'm good.
Mm.
Right, and that's the piece. That's it. It's like I just want to be there to help you get to the I'm good piece, right? And then that's it. Go do your thing. I love that podcast, by the way, y'all. I was listening to that,
oh, thanks.
and I thought it was really, really great. And that piece about what you just spoke to, Rachel, that I really resonated with me, because I do feel that people want to push through, and we are a push through society. Chris, you're speaking to that, how we were raised, right?
Mm-hmm.
Power down, push through.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be really detrimental to many of us when we don't allow ourselves to process, feel in the time that we need.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are going to be moments when I also tell my clients, if this is a like death situation, you may have to just back pocket that shit for a minute and get it done.
Yeah, absolutely.
They will be there. Trust me. You want to go pull it right back out of the room, you can.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But chances are, in this moment, like I need you to, and I've done it with myself. It's like today or this particular thing, we don't have time for this today.
Yeah.
I love you, and we'll have time for it tomorrow. If you really want to cry about it tomorrow, I'll let you do it all day. But right now, I need you to pull it together. Let's go.
Yep.
And that's me talking to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's space for both, Chris, right? It's about the range, the spectrum. It's about attending to what you are needing, your awareness of who you are, what you need in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for me, it's just kind of like, hey, you just got to keep on pushing, I would say, sometimes when I had a thing, I had a thing recently that kind of set me back a little, but the only thing that was in my mind was that song by the Impressions, keep on pushing, and I love it.
Right. Right. My mother used to tell me to get your ass up off your shoulders.
Yeah.
It, I was like, what does that even mean?
Yep.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, well, this has been a fun conversation, interesting conversation, and sorry we've come to the end of the show. But if people want to get a hold of you, Anjua, Rachel will have in the show notes.
Absolutely. I will have everything in the show notes. So you go ahead and I'm sure everybody will be interested in that book also. So go ahead and text me all that information so I can throw it all into the show notes. You guys can reach into our show notes. And I'm also asking that you guys jump on our Facebook. Let us know what you want to hear from us next for conversations. If you want to jump on on it, reach out to us.
Definitely. And I'll let Rach close us out.
All right, you guys, it's come to an end, but we want you to reach inside yourself and start pulling out your sensual, beautiful self and knowing it's okay. Until next time.
Take it easy.